Hello, this is Group Digital Rhetoric 2's presentation on digital rhetoric and shifting perspectives for course ENGL 6328, topics in RCL. So what we will look at first is what is digital rhetoric, right? So in order to understand digital rhetoric, first we must understand classical rhetoric. And we will look at the quote from Aristotle, which is the ability in each case to see all of the available means of persuasion. And what one automatically thinks is ethos, pathos, and logos, which classical rhetoric was seen first through speech and written text. And now when we look at digital rhetoric, we see it as a distinct split between the two approaches of classical rhetoric and media. Whereas classical rhetoric places the rhetor at the center and focuses on the rhetor-audience relationship, media studies places medium as the central object of study. And the main thing that we looked at was social media, which means, of course, videos, photos, posts like, tweets or even Instagram, TikToks, especially. And yeah.
So just to demonstrate a brief example so that we could see how digital rhetoric shifts or changes perspectives or narratives, we have an example here of this picture, right, that was uploaded. And so this couple right here, they have this pro-life message through this picture. They have a poster that says, "We will adopt your baby." And so Twitter really took this on and just ran with it, and they created different messages to distort their original message. So for example, this one right here, we have an over-exaggerated message of patriotism that's saying, "We'll adopt your baby." And then we have this one that's making a little bit more fun of that message, right, with the burglars from Home Alone. "Please don't get an abortion. We will adopt your baby," right? Like, we'll take your baby. And then we have the witches from Hocus Pocus. And then lastly, we have an example of a van that says, "We will adopt your baby." And so they just distorted this message here that was the original one. And so that's how social media changes the message. And it relies heavily just like on pictures and short messages, but that's the nature of digital media. If you want to unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry. I think the AirPods just died. All right, sorry about that. So what our focus here for the paper is going to be is specifically the shifting perspectives of how social media affects perspectives around these mass casualty events, so in particular school shooting events. And we're going to look at how digital rhetoric impacts, affects, and shapes modern day events, right? This is the Uvalde event that happened not too long ago. You have the still from the CCTV on the left, and you have the New York Times headlines on the right. And on this next slide, you have one of the original events that happened in Columbine from 1999. And so these images juxtapose the black and white nature of these older events, but not only just the events themselves and the headlines that surrounded the event, but digital rhetoric and our focus in the academic paper is going to be how the viewpoints on the events or the narratives that come out from the events, how they're shaped by social media, and that's what the next slide will focus on.
Okay, so here we have different perspectives and stories that have come out on social media, such as Twitter and TikTok, even just articles that we see on Facebook of the recent school shooting that happened in Uvalde. So on the left, we have the mother who rescues her children with the headline, "Mother speaks about saving her children from Uvalde gunmen." And there's several stories. This one was on Twitter, but there are several stories and images of her running into the school while the cops were just waiting outside, and she rescued her 2 sons and a friend, I believe. In the middle, we have a headline, "Who comes first, the child in the womb or the child in the room?" And this article was a recent article written because of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. So they're also bringing into major events that have happened into like one article. And then on the right, we have an image from TikTok where it shows the parents waiting around outside the school to see if their children are safe or not. There's been many videos on this as well, and here you can read. It says, "I can't imagine those parents being forced to wait to find out where their child is and if they're okay. It's beyond words." It has a little broken heart emoji. And on the next slide, we are going to, in our paper, we are going to focus on how and why do perspectives shift. Was I a part of their target audience? How did their visuals, audios, videos, pictures, and or posts affect me? Is digital rhetoric a powerful tool to help us understand and grow, or is it a weapon to manipulate us into thinking what the author wants us to think? And we will be using Burke's Pintad as the tool of analysis.
So if we look at the chart here, this is an example of what we will be using to analyze how the message is or changes depending on the media. So we would like to compare how the message from the Columbine shooting was portrayed, or how the incidents were portrayed, and how people were consuming them through television and through newspaper. Those were the main sources of media. But as you can see now, with the more modern shootings, for example, the Uvalde, which is the most recent one, you have other sources like TikTok, you have Twitter, you have social media. And so that will change the way that the message is presented. And so we will be using a chart like this, Burke's Pintad, to find a common trend. And these are our references. So hopefully that's what we will be talking about in our paper.